In this video, we will be knowing more about the cell, which is the fundamental unit of life. All organisms are made up of cells. They are the basic building block of life. As cells come together to give rise to tissues, and tissues will further form an organ. An organ combines to form the organ system. Now, these organ systems will correlate and coordinate with other organ systems to carry out various physical, chemical, and metabolical processes in an organism. Thus, the cell is the fundamental unit that carry out all the structural and functional activities of the organism. So let's look deep into the structure and functioning of the cell one by one. Cells are covered by a distinct membrane on all its sides called the plasma membrane. So it has certain internal components called the cell organelles like the mitochondria, Golgi bodies, plastids, lysosomes, etc. These organelles are membrane-bound compartments where various cellular activities are carried out. So there is a thick liquid called the cytoplasm inside the cell where these organelles float and they carry out all the cellular activities. Let's start with the first component of the cell, that is the plasma membrane, which is also called the cell membrane. The term cell membrane was given by Nageli and Kramer. The plasma membrane is an outermost boundary of the cytoplasm which forms a protective covering for the cell. The cell membrane is thin, elastic, semi-fluid and selectively permeable membrane of the cell. The selective nature of the membrane controls the entry and exit of molecules across the cell. The movement of molecules and water across the membranes occur through the process of osmosis and diffusion, thus maintaining the difference in the ion concentration. What is osmosis? Osmosis is the transfer of water from a high concentration to a low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. The main constituents of the plasma membrane are carbohydrates, proteins, and phospholipids. Carbohydrates are made up of about 1 to 5% and they are mainly hexoses, fructoses, etc. About 20 to 70% are proteins and these proteins are classified on the basis of their function as structural proteins, carrier proteins or enzymes. Lipids are also about 20 to 70% and these lipids, mainly the phospholipids, are present in the cell membrane and they have two constituents, the hydrophilic head and the hydrophobic end. The hydrophilic is water loving whereas the hydrophobic is water repelling. The hydrophilic head has two parts, one is the phosphate and the other is the glycerol. Whereas in the hydrophobic end there are saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. Coming to the structure of the membrane, different models were proposed to explain the structure and composition of the plasma membrane. The most accepted model was given by Jonathan and Singer and Gard Nicholson in 1972, which is called the fluid mosaic model. According to this model, biological membranes are semi-fluid in nature, which have the lipids and the intrinsic model arranged in a mosaic manner. The lipid molecules are arranged in the form of bimolecular layer in which the hydrophilic heads of the phospholipids are present in the outer and inner surface while the hydrophobic tails are buried in the membrane away from the water. The proteins are arranged non-continuously. The membrane proteins are divided into three types, mainly based on their ease of extraction. The first is the peripheral protein. They are present superficially on the outer and inner surface of the membrane and are very easy to remove by the mild simple treatment. So the one of the example is peptide. Next is the integral proteins, and these type of proteins penetrate the membrane surface and bimolecular layer partially or whole. Third is the transmembrane proteins. These proteins run throughout the lipid bilayer and are also known as tunnel proteins as they form tunnels for the passage of some types of substances and water. One of an example is the glycoprotein. Their removal requires crude methods of treatment like detergents. Thus, the membrane structure is described as protein icebergs floating in a sea of phospholipids. So let's discuss few functions of the plasma. Other than acting as a protective cover for the cytoplasm, it also helps regulating the flow of material due to its selectively permeable nature. It also helps in the exit of secretions and waste by exocytosis. The cell membrane also folds up to intake materials by the process of endocytosis. It also helps to form subcellular organelles within the cytoplasm, which helps in cellular movement of substances within the cell. Apart from this, the cell membrane also plays other functional roles, like it helps in blood grouping, giving some immune responses as it has some glycoproteins and glycolipids attached in their membranes. They have peripheral proteins which have some enzymatic activities and also make the membrane selectively permeable. Next, we will be discussing on mitochondria in our next video. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you.